Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of the Beavercreek City Council. Before we get down to business tonight, we have a special presentation. And we have with us tonight the Electric Wolves and their first Lego League team, and I believe they're led by Carl Fisher and Stephanie Cronin. And it's a 5th and 6th grade students from Trabine Elementary and Coy Middle School. So would you guys like to put on a show for us? Tell us what's going on? It's close. Now we got it.
All right. Good job.
Why don't you guys step in front of the podium? We'll let this camera back here get you, so
Okay.
you're not anybody's blocked.
Let's see. I'll hold it behind you then so that I'm not blocking you.
Thank you. Hi, we are the Electric Wolves. The Lego League team is from Trabine Elementary and Coy Middle School.
LEGO League is a guided global robotics competition that encourages teamwork, discovery, innovation, and fun. There are 3 parts to LEGO League: LEGO Robotics Competition, Core Values, and Team Project.
For LEGO Robotics Competition, we programmed our robot to complete the games for the competition. We built attachments out of Legos to achieve the game challenges.
LEGO League core values are discovery, innovation, impact, inclusion, teamwork, and fun.
Who's next?
Yeah. Wait, that's not.
Nope.
This year's theme is City Shaper. How, as a team, can we shape our city community? Our project was to find a problem and communicate in the community and figure out a solution. Our problem was a lack of recreation center or solution, and was to design a Beavercreek rec center. Part of our project was to speak and be an expert. So we talked to Carl, city planner, Randy Burkett.
Mr. Burkett showed us Is that all right? Yep. Mr. Burkett showed us a map of Beavercreek and that City Hall is near the center. The land next to City Hall is undeveloped and sits right next to the bike path. He also suggested using Google Earth to sketch our ideas to scale.
Say thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Okay, if I could,
right.
I'd like to say thanks to a few adults who have helped make all this possible. That was on this podium, so I don't forget anybody. We are one of 16 first LEGO League teams here in Beavercreek. We started about in 2015, and so I'd like to thank my first co-coach, Matthew Main, for suggesting that we start a local team here in Beavercreek. Trabine principal Lisa Walk, and the PTO at Trabine for enthusiastically providing our first team with space and 501c3 charity support for funding. Bobby Fiore at the district office for working to champion this activity and spread it across the Beavercreek School District. And parent, coach, and tireless volunteer Keith Slinker for working tirelessly to organize and coordinate throughout the expansion of this program. Lindsay Langenfelter for coordinating junior FLL teams, which have provided a great group of younger students where they can work on less complicated projects in their younger years. Of course, Mr. Randy Burkett for spending his time with our team to help them learn a little bit about city planning and how to make our project more realistic. And then, of course, all the parents and teachers who took a chance to say, yes, I'll coach and volunteer or mentor. And I'm pleased to report that after just a few years, we're already up at 16 teams this size in the Beavercreek School District.
Fantastic. And
Any
we
questions?
get out and watch some of the competition from the Lego teams, and it is really amazing. You guys are just fantastic, and I don't think we had anything close to that when I was your age. Comments, questions?
So how soon can we see this proposal before City Council to build a rec center here in Beavercreek? Is this, Randy, how well they do? Is this something we could pull together for a work session? Okay, all right. But that's awesome. I think that, how did you guys arrive at this being the problem that you wanted to solve?
We had seen that Kettering Rec had their own thing, and well, we just want our own.
We just wrote down on a whiteboard problems, and we just voted on which one to do.
Oh, very good.
All right.
It's a good one.
Well, you're going to continue working on this project, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you again then.
Can we grab them for a quick picture?
Sure. Where do you want them?
I just want to
You
get a
wanna
picture of
go
them all
down?
smiling.
Okay.
Get over a little closer to the sign.
There you go. Squeeze in there.
Get coaches in there too.
All right. Everybody involved.
Yes.
There you go.
All right.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
The Electric Wolves.
Thank you, team.
Thank you.
And you can text that to me, right?
Absolutely. On it.
All right, thank you very much, fellas. I'll call the meeting to order, and we will have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Curran.
Here.
Councilmember Literal.
Here.
Councilmember Rushing.
Here.
Councilmember Upton. Here. Councilmember Van. Here. Vice Mayor Garcia.
Here.
Mayor Stone.
Here. And I will turn the meeting over to Vice Mayor Garcia for
All
a
right,
moment.
thank you. If we could all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance And if you could all remain standing, please, for a quick prayer. This prayer this evening was actually given to me today at Detective Del Rio's viewing, the detective from the Dayton Police Department. O Almighty God, whose great power and eternal wisdom embraces the universe, watch over all policemen and law enforcement officers. Protect them from harm in the performance of their duty to stop crime, robberies, riots, and violence. We pray, help keep them, our streets, and homes safe night and day. We recommend them to your loving care because their duty is dangerous. Grant them your unending strength and courage in their daily assignments. Dear God, protect these brave men and women. Grant them your almighty protection. Unite them safely with their families after duty has ended. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right, we have an agenda before us. Are there any comments or changes?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. First is ordinance resolutions PUDs. We have ordinance 19-22.
This is the second reading of an ordinance amending ordinance 17-30 PUD 17-4 Rock Development to add 2.94 acres to the existing 6.4 acres PUD.
Okay, Mr. McHugh, I'm going to ask, do we want to combine these public hearings? This is where we had, didn't we have two of them together? Not this one, I'm sorry.
No, that
All right. So this is the second reading of ordinance 19-22, so it is a public hearing. Is there anyone present this evening that would like to address council on this application? Seeing none, any further comments from staff, or from council, excuse me? This will naturally then move on to the third reading at the next regular scheduled meeting. Next is ordinance 19-23.
This is a second reading of an ordinance authorizing the filing of the Articles of Incorporation of the Beavercreek Development Corporation, adopting the Articles of Incorporation of the Beavercreek Development Corporation, improving the designation of the Beavercreek Development Corporation as a designated development agency for the city of Beavercreek.
Thank you. All right, this is the second reading of this, of ordinance 19-23. So it is a public hearing. Is anyone present tonight that would like to address council on this request? Please come forward, give us a name and address, and we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or get some to donate. So,
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Kegan. I live at 2086 Red Rock, Beavercreek 45431. I read about this in the pre-meeting minutes handouts online. I'm still somewhat confused as a citizen as why we need this when we already have a planning and a zoning commission. Why do we need this, and why does it need to be funded?
Okay. We'll get back to you in just a second. Are you
Okay.
finished? I'm gonna see if there's anybody else wants to talk, and then maybe we'll discuss that just a little further. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on this application? Okay. You want to grab that a little bit? In general, I'm gonna give you some general details, and the Beavercreek Development Corporation is a tool that the state allows cities to have. It's a tool that we may or may not ever use. But when we have some aging areas in our community, we felt it was wise to have all the tools possible in our toolbox so that if we ever needed to do something, we would be able to. These things take a while to develop and to get approved through the state. And so it's not something that you can just sit back and say, well, I'll develop it if I ever need it. It's something that we are trying to be proactive with and say, okay, let's get it in the box. Maybe we'll never use it, but at least have it available. So that's the general guts of it.
So, generally, this would enable you to apply for maybe like grants by using that? Is that the intention is, rather than going from the city? I don't quite get the direction
It would allow grant funding to come into that corporation
Right.
that could be used for things to do infrastructure improvements or to do
Right.
other things that it loosens the, it just makes more availability of options.
All right. Does this require funding from the city? Are the board members paid or unpaid? That wasn't quite clear.
Now, there's no paid
Okay.
members of the board.
All right. It's all
The
volunteer.
any funding from the city would only be because we knew we were needed a project and it was best to run it through that corporation, or if we got grants specifically for that type of.
Right. I thank you very much. I can see that there might be an advantage, especially if you were trying to go forward with grants or other development issues. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. Anyone else? We will close the public hearing on ordinance 19-23, and it will naturally move to the third reading. Next is ordinance 19-24.
This is a second reading of an ordinance approving and adopting the Code of Regulations of the Beavercreek Development Corporation and approving the designation of the Beavercreek Development Corporation as a designated development agency for the city of Beavercreek.
Thank you. And this is just the second part of this process. So this is a public hearing. It's the second reading. Is there anyone present that would like to address council on this application? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and this will move to the third reading. Next is Resolution 19-66.
This is a resolution to declare the necessity and intent to acquire certain parcels or real estate and other property interests owned by Charles I. Beaver with interest by others for the Dayton-Xenia Road Widening Project in the city of Beavercreek, Ohio.
All right, thank you. We're missing the control.
Pete?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
They may have something up there. You should go ahead and turn it off. I didn't turn that off.
Technical difficulties.
I can push through this, I think, without the graphics.
One PC. Well, is it the graphic that was in the packet?
It is, yes. Yeah, good evening, Mayor, members of City Council.
Good evening.
As you know, one of our major capital projects planned for next year is the widening of the section of Dayton-Xenia Road between Eastland and Beaverbrook. And in order to build that project, we have to acquire additional property rights from 33 individual property owners. To date, I'm happy to report that we've come to agreement with 27 of those 33 property owners. However, tonight, there are 3 of the remaining 6 on the agenda. We're asking that we go ahead and approve the legislation to begin the appropriations process. Thank you, Mike. The right one here. Thank you. The first one of these is a piece of land. It's owned, or it was owned rather, by Mr. Charles Beaver. Unfortunately, Mr. Beaver passed away a number of years ago, and nobody has claimed his property since. We've made efforts to locate relatives who might have the authority to convey the land to the city, but we haven't been successful in finding anybody to date. So with this particular property, we have no other choice but to use the appropriations process to secure the right-of-way needed for the project. Just to give you a frame of reference, Beaverbrook is just off to the right here. And this parcel, it runs along the north side of Dayton-Xenia. It's essentially ditch the entire property, and there's a big pipe that drains it down to the south through here. In order to proceed with this, there's 2 pieces of legislation. It would be the resolution that's currently before you, and there's an ordinance that would have to be passed also. And we would request that the ordinance be passed as an emergency measure, only because we're short on time with the state of Ohio with our deadline with ODOT to get everything filed. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 19-66.
As an emergency?
That's
No,
the next
not-
one.
It'd be the resolution.
That's just the resolution. I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 19-66. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the ordinance 19-25.
This is an ordinance to appropriate certain real property interests owned by Charles I. Beaver for the Dayton-Xenia Road Widening Project in the city of Beavercreek, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This is the partner to
This
the
is
resolution.
the companion legislation to the first issue. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Ordinance 19-25
As an emergency.
as an emergency.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 19-25 as an emergency. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Literal?
Yes.
Councilmember Rushing?
Yes.
Councilmember Upton?
Yes.
Councilmember Van?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilmember Curran?
Yes.
Mayor Stone?
Yes, thank you. Next, resolution 19-67.
This is a resolution to declare the necessity and intent to acquire certain parcels or real estate and other property interests owned by James Wicker Jr. and Phillip Wicker with interest by others for the Dayton-Xenia Road Widening Project in the city of Beavercreek, Ohio.
Thank you.
Yes, Evening again. This property is located, you can see Countryside Drive right here. It's right at the corner of that and Dayton-Xenia Road. With this particular property owner, we had some good communications with him early on. However, as things progressed, they wouldn't return any of our calls or get in contact with us. And for what it's worth, we made 22 attempts to date to contact him with no response back. We'll, of course, continue and try to make contact with them to try to resolve just without going to court, but that may not be possible, obviously.
Okay.
For what it's worth, we have 2 takes here. We have a permanent take, which is approximately 954 square feet, and there's a temporary grading easement just behind it. The appraised value is $9,599.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 19-67. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The companion ordinance then is ordinance 19-26.
This is an ordinance to appropriate certain real estate interests owned by James Wicker Jr. and Phillip Wicker for the Dayton-Xenia Road Widening Project in the city of Beavercreek, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
So you're using snail mail to get a hold of them? You're using snail mail, postal service to get a hold of them, and you're
Yes.
using telephones?
Yes, we actually sent certified mailings to them. We've also attempted to email and call.
Have those certified mailings come back?
No, we actually, early on, there was some dialogue with the property owner
Okay.
where we had some back and forth, and we were trying to negotiate a price, but it kind of reached a point where they just refused to talk to us, so.
Okay, so it's not that you just haven't been able to find them? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do I hear a
Or
motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 19-26 as an emergency.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 19-26 as an emergency. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Rushing?
Yes.
Councilmember Upton?
Yes.
Councilmember Van?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilmember Curran?
Yes.
Councilmember Literal?
Yes.
Mayor Stone.
Yes, thank you. Next is Resolution 19-68.
This is a resolution to declare the necessity and intent to acquire certain parcels or real estate and other property interest owned by Balaji Investments LLC with interest by others for the Dayton-Xenia Road Widening Project in the city of Beavercreek, Ohio.
Yes, good evening again. This is the old Knollwood Tavern and Shopping Center property right here at the corner of Longview and Dayton-Xenia. Senior Center is just off in this corner here, give you some frame of reference. The proposed take, actually there's an existing highway easement that runs along this yellow. What we're doing is we're not really changing the limit of the right-of-way through here. We're more or less purchasing the land that's now encumbered by that existing highway easement. There is just a little piece here on the corner that we're actually buying that's brand new, but everything you see in yellow we control today, just we're changing the manner in which we would own that. What's shown in red with this project, there's some gas mains and other utilities that have to get relocated. That red is a location for those utilities to go, utility easement for the gas main and overhead power lines, and the purple is a temporary easement. Again, with this property owner, we've made multiple attempts to contact him, and we haven't had any success at all in getting them to respond to us to date. With this one, we'll make further attempts to contact them, but it doesn't seem likely that they'll be responding to us.
Do they have an American office?
They do, actually. Their main office is in the city of Dayton.
Oh, really?
Yes. And it's the other one we sent certified mailings to, but again, with no response, there's not much else we can really do.
Okay, discussion? I mean, this whole project is gets down to inches, it seems like. I mean, it's really a tight project.
Jeez.
Absolutely.
All right.
I would move for approval of Resolution 19-68.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 19-68. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The companion ordinance is 19-27.
This is an ordinance to appropriate certain real property interests owned by Balaji Investments LLC for the Dayton-Xenia Road Widening Project in the city of Beavercreek, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
As.
This has to be an
It's an emergency.
Yes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 19-27 as an emergency. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Upton?
Yes.
Councilmember Van?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilmember Curran?
Yes.
Councilmember Literal?
Yes.
Councilmember Rushing?
Yes.
Mayor Stone.
Yes. Thank you. Next is Resolution 19-65.
This is a resolution by Beavercreek City Council accepting the bid of Bigley Tree LLC in response to RFP 07-2019 for debris removal services and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contractual agreement with said contractor to perform the services specified in the debris removal services contract, which contract is incorporated herein by reference and is available for public inspection at the city offices for an amount not to exceed the sum of $600,000.
Thank you.
That'll be me tonight.
Yes, please.
As council is aware, we've been working on the bid process as far as the two different locations of the cleanup, CMEX in Fairborn and Environmental Services in Xenia. We had this originally bid out and was actually scheduled July 22nd, I remember it very well, to approve the contracts, the bid. And at that point in time, FEMA had just arrived that morning and told us of some special things that we had to do during the bid process. So at that night, we pulled everything off the agenda that night and went back to work, getting FEMA to help us review the bids and understand their guidelines that were totally different than anything we had ever done before, and to make sure we maximize and make sure we get every bit of reimbursement we can. So we rebid the process, met all the requirements of FEMA. Mr. McHugh, the county prosecutor, this is the township as well, so we've been working on this all together. The city, township, and the county have advertised to secure a vendor that all entities will utilize for the grinding and hauling of the debris. Staff has reviewed the bids and determined that Beagley Tree LLC is the lowest and best bid submitted for the completion of the work, and we recommend City Council approve that, allowing the city manager, myself, to enter into the contract so that we may begin the grinding and hauling of the vegetative debris so it can be completed. The sooner we can get it done, of course, the sooner we can get billed for it and then get reimbursed for it. So that's been a long process since we really were trying to do it July 22nd, and now it's November 11th, but we wanted it done right, so.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Do we have any discussion? I know, where was the next bid, Pete, as far as the difference? I understand that there was a big spread.
40%. This is 40% less than the previous bid that we originally had. I mean, it's significant.
Microphone.
Compared, I think the amount was that this was 44% lower than the original bid we received in July. Reason being is because I think then they were nervous about hurricane season coming, and now that not much came, at least local, as far as Florida and stuff, not as many. But even with that, the next person was significantly higher. We actually had comments made that they didn't know how these people were doing it for that cost. I was cautious, so was the township, so was the county. So all the referrals, all the reference checks, all the background checks, all the, Mr. McHugh's been working on the contract as well, making sure that there's provisions in there as far as they don't do something right, there's penalties for, going longer, and all those types of things to cover ourselves. Because it was, the only thing I can assume is that since it was such a short period of such a low amount, was that they're willing to maybe break even or something to keep staff working instead of paying unemployment during the season. I'm not sure, but I can't question why the bid was low, that low, but we'll take it and move forward. I think we've built enough into the contract that we're protecting ourselves and the residents.
Are all three entities, the county, township, and the city, already agreed to use this same contractor?
Yes.
Is
All's
that a
been
separate
reviewed.
written agreement of any type, or?
No, they will all sign the same contract.
Oh, is the 600?
All parties are going to sign.
Is the 600,000 in for the entirety, all three bodies? Or is it
Correct.
just,
Yeah.
is that just our part?
No.
That's
everything.
everything.
And so how do we divide it?
The piles are already separated out there, so we will actually have staff while the grinding and all that is there will be either a city staff, township staff, or county staff monitoring at all times. They will be also double checking the number of trucks and the weights and all that kind of stuff. We have to have, it is so, the FEMA requirements are extraordinary. So to meet that, we will have somebody always there. So Environmental Services has done a great job of separating the piles so they know this is city, this is township, and this is county. So.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, anybody? Comments?
Just, the
right.
city continues to just do great work with this, catastrophic event, so. And collaboration always works well, too.
We just had to sit on it a little longer than I hoped we would have had to, but other than that,
It just
we've
takes
moved
time for
along
these
well.
events. It's just.
All right, do I hear a motion? Oh, yeah, we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 19-65. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a decision item. Mr. Casera?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to stick with the FEMA theme. I think you have my report, and I think it is pretty detailed about what's going on out there. A couple of the highlights: the golf course is having an unbelievable year, which is great to see. Their rounds are up almost $29,000. That equates to green fees, merchandise, food and beverage. So that's a good thing. We're having a pretty good year out there. Of course, now that the weather has turned the other way, although it's supposed to be 55, 60 next week anyway. So, but they're doing really good. We have sat on our money for a little bit, and the interest rates went up, so our interest revenue is pretty much at a record pace right now too. So that's a positive thing. I just wanted to let you know that on the FEMA front and the reimbursement front, we have a standing meeting with them every week. And we have put in the information. They actually came in and trained us to put in the information into their brand new system. We're the guinea pigs to do that. We actually, as already sent in the $935,000 that we used for the initial cleanup. We've already got that in, all the supporting documents, all the detail that they need to actually send that to the FEMA auditors to take a look at, to start to work on that process. The next phase is getting the payroll, the wages and overtime and the equipment into the system. We've got the employees' hours, their overtime hours, their double overtime hours. We've equated that to a dollar amount, and we're going to be ready to submit that to FEMA probably Friday. So just to let you know that we're working on that to expedite that reimbursement as quickly as possible. So be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there questions?
Mr. Mayor, I did have a question more for I think city manager and council for discussion. Looking over the overtime and comp summary here, it says we're at 92.3% of what's been budgeted already for the year. A lot of that because of the tornado recovery efforts, but it's only the second week in November, and there could be a lot of snow coming in December and around the holidays. I'm just curious if we need to think about adding something to the budget to cover the rest of this year. I'd hate to get to 100% and it's only December 26th,
Mr. Casera, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're closely monitoring that. You really can't, like Zach said, predict the weather. Today is a event. Our guys will probably get called out. It happens to be a holiday. It happens to be double time. So events like that, we'll take a look at the overtime. We have probably one or two more additional appropriations that we need to do before the end of the year, and we'll certainly take a look at that. There's some divisions that are skewed out of that those totals, but like the police department, even though they had that overtime for that week after the storm, they're still pretty much in line. So there may be something in the street fund that we can certify some additional revenue to cover those costs before the end of the year.
I just know our number of meetings are short for the rest of the year.
Correct.
I mean, we got this.
They got two more. Right?
Two more.
Yep. Two more official, right? But
budget and work sessions. We've got two more public meetings to pass.
Two more
something.
to pass legislation.
Yeah.
Anything we would bring would be the next public meeting, the next video meeting, because we usually don't bring additional appropriations to the state of the city unless it was absolutely something that came unplanned. So yeah, we're down to the wire, so I think we will know one way or the other by the last meeting in November if we have to put something on there to cover overtime. If it's snows till then, we may need that, but if not, it's just, we're watching it, as
Very
Mr.
good.
Casera said.
It's already on the agenda for the next meeting anyway, is to do the final appropriations for the year and to look at that particular area.
Okay, perfect.
Luckily, I was told that actually the checks might be in the mail within weeks. So.
Good.
Yeah, so it may even before the end of the year, we might have the check.
Oh, the other thing, that's a good point, Ms. Van.
And and he's so good at making sure we're okay. It's really wonderful, but to know that there's, where we were told it might be a long time, to know that it might just be weeks is really cool. So I'm glad you're getting all those facts that you got together, because those will be needed, I'm sure.
But and again, they've been impressed with the formats that we've been giving them. So again, we're trying to, as a former auditor, I know exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So I'm giving them more than they probably need, but I'm trying to think that will end up expediting the whole process.
I value that. Thank you.
The one other thing I wanted to mention too was that we actually submitted some of the damage related to our signals and the signs and everything to our insurance company, Maverma, which again, they've already approved probably about $60,000 more than we thought they would for getting that done, and that's 100% reimbursement. So again, we'll be getting that money a lot quicker than waiting for the FEMA money and the 87.5% that we're going to get from them. So,
And in Montgomery County, they did stuff for the parks too, so.
yeah, I've been throwing everything at them. I've been waiting for them to deny everything I throw at them, and so far so good. So, but that's just again to expedite the processes to get that 100% versus.
Careful about making sure if we've got insurance for these kind of things, we need to be using it. It's not just for us to be nice guy and say, oh, we'll absorb that. No.
Right. And I've been stumbling into the gray area.
Thanks.
They've been telling me, well, I'm not sure about that
Okay,
one. So
thanks.
you deny me, and then we'll go from there.
I like gray, thanks.
Question on, what would you guess would be the percentage of reimbursement on this overtime that we've been talking about? Did they lead you to believe that it would be 100% or?
Well, we actually had to sign up for a project, a pilot project that they have. This is one of the few times that they're allowing us to give the money for regular wages too.
All right.
So in public services, we can apply for regular wages and the overtime.
All right.
For public safety, we can only apply for overtime cost. So again, if it's approved, and they find that it's eligible, what they'll do is FEMA will end up giving 75%, and then the state will give 12.5% of that. So. And they've also said that the donated efforts that we have from all the other cities that came in and provided equipment and their employees, that we can use that as our match, which should increase our percentage that we get back for the total.
The real dollars.
Thank you.
Disaster.
Increase the real dollar amount.
Right. Again, again, what we're trying to do is just press the envelope to make sure that we're getting as much as we can out of those two agencies.
All right. Well, thank you. Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I would move for acceptance of the third quarter 2019 financial summary.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the third quarter financial summary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And it is now council time. And would we like to start over to my right? How about Councilmember Literal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to say thank you to all of our veterans and those active duty members that we currently have. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your service. It's just, it makes you proud to be an American when you look at all of the people out and just know that our freedom is because people have sacrificed. So just a heartfelt thank you to all those. The second thing I wanted to comment on was our Tuesdays, Traffic Tuesdays. Are you still putting that out on Facebook? It's a great thing you do. It's like something on Tuesdays.
Yeah, Traffic Tuesday.
Thank you.
The police do that from time to time. I haven't seen a few in a couple weeks, but those
I-
are tip.
I had someone
helpful.
ask me about that, and so I just wanted to bring that up because that's very well liked. So I just wanted to.
We did recently put out the school bus one.
That was very
again,
helpful. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
everybody gets confused easily to do. So.
Yeah, that is. But that is a great, I mean, that's another great community thing that we do. And so had a couple comments on that. So I just wanted to say thank you for those. And that's about it for this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Rush.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure the whole council will join. I also want to give my thanks to the veterans who continue to serve. We've all heard the phrase before, but all gave some and some gave all. And I appreciate each and every veteran that we have in our community and beyond. As Vice Mayor Garcia mentioned at the prayer, our thoughts and prayers are with Detective Del Rio and the entire Dayton Police Department, as well as all police officers who serve, put their lives on the line every day. I do also want to end by congratulating our Community Engagement Officer, Mark Brown, on a successful Citizen Police Academy. They had their graduating class this past week. I know several council members, the mayor, vice mayor, and council member Kern were present. Another great opportunity, and we have now about over a dozen more community ambassadors for our community who have the knowledge to continue that service. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Van.
I am still extremely concerned that we asked for help for the people in the tornado area, and our city has done, we've gone to 3 or 4 meetings, but we've done nothing since July. So I wanted to give an example. What if a manager, a city manager possibly, saw a serious stormwater problem in the neighborhood, and it was serious erosion, and he could see that there was going to be flooding and it was going to have great impact to that region. So he called his project manager and he said, could you just give me a couple solutions for this so we can discuss what we're going to do about this problem? And so the project manager went to a couple of his laborers and they said, we haven't heard any complaints about this, so we're not going to do anything. We just don't think that we're going to do anything. Well, this is the same thing that happened to us as the city council. We are the policymakers, and we asked our city manager in September to pay attention to the needs of the people in the tornado area. And we've done nothing since July. Bob Stone confirmed that at one of our one of our presentations for discussing things that are going on in the city. So we've only gone to a few meetings. In September, we had a 6-0 vote directing the city manager to provide some options for how we could help people in the tornado area. The city manager wrote back a letter to us that said, I asked a couple people in the city offices if we'd had any complaints, and they said we haven't had any complaints, so I'm not going to give you any reports. And that was the end of it. And then it was supposed to be discussed at a work session in September, and instead of rescheduling it to a time when he could be there, he left it scheduled at that time, and he was out of town. So there was no discussion. I provided a list of 8 or 10, I don't remember, I don't have it in front of me, things that probably our city should be doing. And if you look at the chart, these are the things that are being done by Mamming Valley Regional Planning. There'll be capital improvement things. These are the other things that need to be addressed. And we should be helping our citizens engage. I don't think more than a handful of people have connected with the case manager process because they don't have somebody at City Hall that can reinforce or just coach them a little bit and say, yeah, I know we don't usually go across county lines, but this is a good idea. Just give them a call. Because there's a lot of donated and grant and other things available if we just help our citizens figure out how to connect. I am very frustrated that the city manager decided that we were not going to discuss this. And I think it's really important that this city manager realize when a city council, who are his bosses, vote 6-0 just to have a staff report of several options, that we should at least have the options. We didn't say to hire somebody. We didn't say this is exactly what we want them to do. We said this is a serious problem. Our citizens are in trouble, and we want somebody at City Hall who is paying attention and knows the needs of each lot, and so that we can advocate for what projects need to be done in our community. And he said, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to give you a report, is what he said. And
I
and
think
so
we did get a report, and I'm not going to argue about it here.
we
but I
didn't
think
get
we
a
did get a report.
We
I
didn't get a
remember seeing a
we
report.
we didn't get a report. We got a report that said I asked a couple people in the office if they've gotten any complaints. I can send it to you.
I know, we have it right here, up on the screen. But
So-
anyway, are you?
So I was
Show your
hoping
time.
that because this is important, that something to the effect be included in the minutes, and it's a reprimand for his personnel file, because I think it's very serious when the city manager doesn't listen to the elected officials who established the policy. All we asked him to do was to give us a report so we could discuss it. And these people now, it's snowing, things are happening, there's a lot of problems out there, and we still are not doing anything more than just having a few little meetings where, 25 people show up, and we've got 500 people that need help, or 200 families. I mean, it just depends on the level of service that they need. But there's a lot of people who need help, and we should be reaching out. We shouldn't be a do-nothing city, and I am very sad that, that's where we're at. So I want a reprimand that when the city council votes 6-0 for a city manager to give us something that we could discuss, that it's more than, I asked a couple people and they said, nah, we don't feel like it. That's not a good answer.
Councilmember, Mayor Stone, I would just like to comment that I think that we have had a serious situation in our community with the natural disaster, and I would like to comment publicly that not only have you done an excellent job in leading the community, that I also feel that our city manager has done a fine job. And I think that any type of discussion for a reprimand is not appropriate at a city council meeting. I think that's served for an executive session.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Councilmember Upton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Stone. So I'd take a moment to thank everyone that turned out to the polls last week and voted one way or the other. I appreciate just folks taking the time to get involved and educate themselves about the issues. I don't remember the exact numbers now, what the turnout was in the city of Beavercreek, but I know for the circumstances with not having real hot topics on the issue, no state ballot or state issues on the ballot or anything, we had good turnout in our community. So proud of those that came out to vote. Yeah, we've heard Councilmember Van ask about this, and I don't know what more can be provided that hasn't been provided. The city manager provided what was directed to him in that 6-0 vote. We've looked at it. I think we've had some discussion around
All
it.
he said was he wasn't going to give us more.
Did you not see the attachment with it?
We can talk about it at a different time.
Councilmember Upton.
The other attachment only talked
Ms. Van, you keep saying we're not talking about it. Now you want to talk about it another time. You know, it's...
Please follow up on your comments, please.
Yeah, you know, I feel like we've gotten the information that was requested in that vote. In maybe I'm not happy with what was in it, but it was provided. My position on this is, if we're going to create a new position, I'd like to see it be a position that we've needed more than just the last 6 months. You know, we have zoning code issues year in and year out, where we're not providing services to go and check on those codes. You know, our zoning code officer is on a not as needed complaint-driven service, and you know, we can certainly utilize more staff if we had the dollars, but you know, trying to specify it for a one-time need and pushing so hard is just I don't think it's appropriate this time. So that's all.
Councilmember Curran.
Wanted to just say that I enjoyed the Veterans Program, Mayor. I thought that was just very timely, and again, we salute all of the men and women who served our country, and heard a couple of people in the audience say that their particular communities had a monument or a special area for veterans, but they don't have a program like Beavercreek, and they were so pleased to come here because we actually have a program, which I thought was really timely and said something for our community. Very nice.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to again say congratulations to Officer Mark Brown for the Citizens Police Academy. That was a great evening to see all the people who were there supporting law enforcement. Our community does a really good job in support of our law enforcement, which I think is really great to see. I also wanted to congratulate the 6th grade Eager Beaver football team that just recently won the Super Bowl. So I thought that was fantastic to see, as well as the Beavercreek cross-country ladies who came in first place at the state meet. I want to thank again the Electric Wolves for coming tonight to presenting for us. That was really great to see. I look forward to seeing you guys again more often and coming to some of your competitions. And then just a reminder to all of council that the evaluations for the city manager and the city clerk are due November 20th. A reminder also that there are 2 links in the original email I sent, and I sent it out again. Please be sure to fill out an evaluation for each, and please have that done by November 20th. And other than that, that's it for me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Mayor's report. A couple little things. Again, Veterans Day, whoever was in charge of the weather let the rain hold off until right after they closed. It was chilly and it was cold, but it's not as bad as it could have been. So it was well done. Thank you. Home 2 had a grand opening, the hotel, last week. I was hoping that Councilmember Van would have talked a little bit about the visiting Russians that were here. You were part of that, I believe. But there was a group of Russians, I think they're all engineers, that we came to City Hall one day, but they also had a lot of interaction with a lot of different communities, a lot of different levels of government. And Councilmember Van was, and Trustee Deborah Wallace, who I know were part of that.
It's a great program. Congress pays for a scholarship for people from previously communist countries to come to the United States and talk about common issues. So this one was about urban transportation, and it was terrific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were very eager to learn. Wolpert's addressed them in here as well, and it was hard to get them. It's hard to pull those engineers apart. I mean, they were really excited about each other's programs. The Beavercreek Tornado Network and along with other organizations from mental health and from the health department had a dinner yesterday. Not yesterday, Saturday. Sunday? It was Sunday. And it was very enjoyable. It was a holiday type dinner. Quite a few people were in attendance. I had so many compliments on the city's response to the tornado. Now, are there people that still have needs? I'm not going to argue that point. Of course there are. That's a whole different issue, and I do think that Councilmember Van has a very good idea that we take a look at, did the tornado cause drainage issues? Did the tornado cause road damage? But that's our own engineering staff can take a look at that and determine whether that needs to be done. But if we want to move up in order, maybe we want to put a higher priority on some of the roads or drainage areas than we have now. I think that's a great idea to look at. It's some of the other things that we're just not getting the calls for. But that's another story, another discussion. But anyway, it's been a wonderful week, and I was very pleased on how many people showed up at the Veterans Day event today and to weather that cold. So with that, I'm going to move on the agenda and turn it over to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it was a great event at the Veterans Day. A lot more in attendance than I thought would be because of the cold, and you could tell in the 25 minutes that it lasted, the temperature dropped in 25 minutes. So, moving on, I hate to say this in November, early November, but winter driving safety.
Be patient when driving around a snow truck. Snow plow trucks make sudden stops and turns and other actions that may not be expected for a normal vehicle. Plow drivers try to be aware of vehicles around them, but it's with many blind spots where a pickup truck may be hidden from the driver's view. So when a plow truck is in the left lane, be extra careful because it throws to the right, and that's a natural blind spot as well, and the possibility of large snow amounts being thrown off the right of the truck from the plow, and the velocity of the snow can cause damage to properties in your vehicle. So just slow down. When it's snow down, slow down. And I thought that was pretty good. I didn't come up with that. So, and just a couple other things was just the upcoming budget meetings, city council work sessions, the 18th and 20th, and December 9th, of course, the last meeting of the year, and the state of the city will be presented, and the 2020 proposed budget presented for approval of city council. I did attend the city's police academy as well. I thought that was great. A lot of energetic individuals that learned a lot about the city and specifically about the police department. I think every time they go through something like this, the training that they receive, their eyes are definitely opened and they see things in a total different view. And lastly, I'm going to take a couple minutes just because of the amount of response on social media this weekend with the logo that was a press release, and prior to that a picture that was posted. So if you bear with me just a moment, through motion on October 28th, City Council did approve by motion the new logo. A lot of questions were, was this approved? So the answer is yes. Put my specs on here. I'm going to read some of these, and some of you guys are going to be in disbelief, but I'm answering specific questions that have been asked, okay? So I'm not making this up. I'm specifically responding to public requests of information. So on this first one, if anybody has a different answer than no in the city council, please let me know. No. My answer is no. To the best of my knowledge, no principal officers of Schlegel Creative Resources, our vendor, are in any way related to any member of council, to include Mayor, Vice Mayor Garcia, the city manager, or clerk of council. These relationships include children, grandchildren of any generation, parents, grandchildren, grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews. The amount, I think this is probably the number one question. How much was paid to Schlegel Creative Resources? 2018, it was $2,100. Year to date in 19 is $43.75, but we have an unpaid, we haven't received a bill yet. I think the estimate's $48.75. So the total estimate project is $11,350. Originally planned for $5,000 for a refresh, but the project evolved to more changes. Just for a comparison, Fairborn spent, when they did theirs, in excess of $20,000 for their redesign. So we're definitely under budget. Budget amount for rebranding of the city's website was asked. The cost is $0. We have a free update that we've been waiting on for over a year to complete. Budget amount for the city signage updates outdoor. The answer is $0. We've not budgeted any additional. It's minimal cost. We reused the metal signs, and all we're paying for is the vinyl, which it can fit within our current budget. Budget amount for city signage updates indoor. That's not really been determined this time. It's minimal for council chambers if we're changing the logo behind us. Tablecloth, something minimal. Budget amount for vehicle signage updates. The answer is $0. At this time, we're not changing vehicle logo, only on new or replacement vehicles as needed. Any other expenses not included in categories, and I refer back to the press release that stated that most changes are digital and will not be replacing monument signs. There was a statement, question was the statement in the last meeting that the city manager is working behind the scenes, and that's an allegation of illegal or hidden action. Nothing illegal has been or ever will be taken by the city manager. The city manager works behind the scenes on nearly everything he does. For this project, I worked behind the scenes to coordinate with the committee and work with the vendor and the staff until such time that various changes and versions were completed and the committee was ready to recommend the final product. Why didn't you use the high school students or Wright State residents for the project? As you can see by the Facebook post, logo replacement change has strong and somewhat emotional opinions. No matter who did it, school, college, group, or residents, half the people would have strong opinions, and really we got to be careful because these opinions, very strong opinions, we don't want to damage any school or college kids that have worked so hard on the project through the social media opinions. There is reason why it's difficult for us to get volunteers at times, so I wouldn't want children and students or volunteers facing such critical comments. Other cities and entities face the same challenges, even that it was brought up on Facebook, such things as UD logo and Fairborn's new logo. Every logo out there just about faces rough because it's change and people, it's rough on change. A few with positive comments. I just wanted to say there were a few with positive comments, but as soon as they had positive comments, people were responding to their positive comments kind of strongly, so I think that people were really not willing to leave positive comments after they witnessed that. Question of it took 2 or 3 years. Rebranding began about 3 years ago. Now this has included us doing many free things, press releases weekly, active on Facebook, restart up Twitter page, new YouTube channels, use of the website, even creating a community engagement officer in the police department. We have been more open and more transparent than ever. What started out as a refresh of the logo began early in 2018. There is a timeline available if anybody wants it. I have copies of it. Of the 2-year period that had breaks in times. An example of the break in time was, of course, during the tornado period. We shelved it for a while, but there was a couple other periods of time with the creation of the committee and some other things that took some more times, gaps in time. Why did we get rid of orange and black? That was asked a lot. In the first picture that was put on Facebook as when I changed the overall cover, over 75% of the comments had something to do with why the city is not using orange and black. The press release addressed the issue, but many more comments were made under the press release, posts that were evident that the press release itself was not read, but rather just comments made to pictures. That's common. You can explain a whole bunch of things, but if you put a picture out there, they're going to focus on the picture. The city has never used black or orange or a brown beaver. The school district will continue to use their separate logos as they seem fit. And just a couple other questions. Here's a couple other statements. I like the old logo. Well, my question back to them is, which of the 10 plus variations of the logo do you mean? The silver gray beaver, the gold beaver, the teal beaver, the yellow beaver, the open tail beaver, closed tail beaver, the river, the one with the river, the without the river, beaver sitting in the middle of Beavercreek, or the beaver sitting at the end of Beavercreek, which of the many shades of maroon or red, the hot dog bun used by the parks, the many golf club variations, and many more. The history of the logo is a little unclear, but I had the clerk today pull some old motions going way back to 1995, and it seems like the 95 and 96 versions actually kind of copied off the golf course. Seems like they developed the original Beaver somehow through the golf course. They kind of passed it along. Then in 97, they passed a version of the Beaver, just the Beaver, so just the Beaver itself, that kind of version there was passed in 97. Just a beaver, no city name, no color of the beaver, no what font to use for it, no guidelines for that. And I understand sometimes because that's back in the 90s where we didn't have the era of electronic imaging that we have now. Then in 2002, the version of the beaver that is below with the creek came about. Throughout the years, the logo has been modified in various logos to meet the needs of the city. It also appears that the city continued to use various old logos after new one was approved. I don't know why, if this one was approved, why the other one was continued. This has led to different logos and many variations of each. The purpose of the new logo, again, it brings us back to the reason why this was done in the first place was the brand recognition and consistency. The rebrand was to present a uniform logo to businesses and other entities wishing to develop in our city and along with the residents. The new logo will be consistent and demonstrate that the Beavercreek continues to be the place to build a family life and a business. The new logo is in the process of being trademarked and has specific guidelines, rules on usage. Actually, under the press release on the website is the entire book of guidelines, tells the exact colors, the exact fonts, the exact what not allowed, what is allowed, and this is all to keep the city brand strong, consistent, and recognizable. And just one last thing, I just wanted to say that the vendor did a nice job. He did as he was asked, as far as the coloring, as far as the stylized beaver. That's what was asked of him to perform. So other than that, I just wanted to try to answer some questions. There was common questions that were being repeated over and over, and I thought it might be appropriate here just to respond. Appreciate all the comments, lot of feedback, which is always a good thing. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, we will move on to citizen comments. And this is the time in the meeting where citizens can address council on any issue they wish. And yes, and we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes unless you think you need more. We'll find somebody to donate some time to you. But if you're ready, please come forward and give us your name and address again.
My name is Cheryl Kegan. Again, I'm from Beavercreek. Thank you, Mr. Landrum, for your statements. And as you've all apparently become very aware, there is a very strong negative feeling against your proposed logo. Almost every citizen I have spoken to has said that they are extremely disappointed. They find it just appalling, just appalling, literally. I have a friend who is a professional graphic artist who told me she said it was the worst bungled beaver she'd ever seen in her life. That was her exact words. We're almost speechless. It's so bad. The fact that the color scheme has, it's not even, a lot of us have gone to say no to the Tide Pod logo because that's what it looks like. I mean, I agree with you. To have children do it and be attacked would be terrible. To have schools do it and be attacked would be terrible. But the fact is that the logo that has been chosen is not accepted by the majority of citizens of this community. There was no widespread openness about the change of what it might look like or what people might like. The fact that, yes, we have a distinct problem in the variety of the current logo, that's an issue. But the issue to that is pick one and say, that's it. Everybody has to use that one. And then you have no problem. Because no one has ever objected to any of the current variations being used. Show me an objection to any current variation. None. But I can give you a couple hundred people right now who object to the green and blue logo. Nobody objects to any of the old ones. Pick one. That's very simple, and you could have saved $11,000. It was absolutely ridiculous to not put it in touch, to put it, we rebranded. We've got Twitter, we've got Facebook. It was never mentioned. Nobody ever said, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. What do you people think of it? No, you just did it. You did it without citizen-wide input in this community. I don't want to see the green and blue blob anywhere in this city. And I have hundreds of other friends who think the same. And if we have to take up a referendum petition to do it, we shall do so. Do we need to do that?
Well, we appreciate your comments, and we will certainly take your comments under advisement. This part of the meeting is not something where we go back and forth. We may ask you to come back in for a further conversation.
I will
but,
be here again at the next meeting.
We appreciate your input. Thank you very much. All right, anything else for the good? Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't close that part. Public input, please, come up.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Beaver, 2384 Kiwana Lane, lifelong resident of Beavercreek. I was not made aware of the branding change until just this evening when it was kind of briefly discussed in my presence downstairs. Brief glimpse of the branding. I work in the branding industry and promo. I do not object to the new brand. It may be worthy of a little tweaking, but I do not object to the coloration nor the styling of the beaver. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has any comments for council? All right, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.